My name's Carmine Cafaro, and you're watching Cook It with Carmine. Here, you'll learn about cooking techniques and how to source ingredients, and along the way, I'll introduce you to my friends, family, and favorite food purveyors. So join me in my kitchen to Cook It with Carmine.
Here we are at ALC Italian Grocery in beautiful Bay Ridge. We're gonna go inside in a moment and meet the owner, Louis Coluccio, and we're gonna make one of their famous sandwiches, the Carmine Calabrese.
Long time no see.
Yeah, well, that's a joke, because I'm here all the time. Well, where did the idea come from to open this place?
So I grew up in my family's tiny importing business, always surrounded by food, talking to people about food, going on food trips, going out to dinner. There, all we did was sell ingredients to make the finished product. Right. I was always very much interested in the restaurant business, sandwich making, putting everything together and seeing everything come out. But this is like the final product. Someone's walking out with a porchetta or a sandwich, they're walking with that end product.
When I discovered your place and I saw the name, I saw Coluccio, immediately I was like, I know this name.
Family connection.
Because my family's been shopping at the wholesale store for years. And I see all of your products. Everything is so well curated.
We try to do a mix of local, obviously Italian, but French, Spanish, Mediterranean influences as well.
You've got this extensive sandwich menu. How did that start coming together?
Trial and error. Just try different combinations that would always work. You know, some things that I like, some things that people that we were working with at the time sort of recommended. A lot of feedback would come from our customers in the beginning. Try this, try that. And you're like, this sandwich. I went to Italy, I had that, and that's how the Carmine came to be. That famous Carmine sandwich.
That is how
it was a combination of, I guess, what I know, my background, Stephanie, the girl that was working here at the time, and you. So it was a perfect mix, right?
Yeah. I mean, it all.
That's why I think I love the sandwich so much too, because I think it encapsulates everything about ALC.
Right.
It's a combination.
That sandwich was very much a community effort.
Definitely, absolutely.
The first year that I discovered ALC, on my lunch break, you saw me 5 days a week. I was here every single day during my lunch break. So Stephanie started busting my chops. She goes, "You're gonna get the same 2 sandwiches over and over again." She says, "Do you like spicy?" Hell yeah, I like spicy. So she came up with the sandwich. It's a fried chicken cutlet. At the time, it was Gruyere, but I think now it's provolone.
To get involved.
Right. It had chopped up Calabrian chilies.
That's where my family's from, Calabria.
From Calabria, okay. Yeah, that's the only spicy region of Italy. A chili-infused honey.
Right, so Mike's Hot Honey.
Mike's Hot Honey.
Mix of the old and new kind of coming together.
Garlic aioli and some greens after it came out of the press. And that sandwich, it blew my mind because it was so well balanced. It was spicy and it was sweet. It was rich, but it was also acidic. And like anything that you would want, it was
perfect fried chicken cutlet.
Yeah,
your grandma used to make.
Texture is great. She says, if you like the sandwich enough, maybe we could get it on the board. She had no idea that it's always been one of my dreams. My favorite deli, to have a sandwich named after me, I feel like I provide. That's like I'm carving myself into the neighborhood, you know?
I guess the whole point of all of this, right?
Yeah, that's the whole point of the show, too. It's like, how important is food in our own personal lives and in our culture? It's like, that's how we became friends. That's how I became friends with the guys at It's Me. It's all because I'm as interested as you are, and you provide a product and a service that
it's fun.
looking for.
It's fun. You're eating, you're talking, you're hanging out.
That'll make your day right there. It's a happy lunch break, for sure. So here we are at the home kitchen, and we're going to make a couple of sandwiches. First, we're going to start with a breakfast sandwich. Now, I don't know if you guys had this dilemma when you're about to make some eggs, but I often have a hard time deciding on whether I want a scrambled egg or an egg with a runny yolk. What are you weighing in on? Scrambled. So scrambled for my kid, but for me, it's a harder decision. But then one day, it dawned on me that I didn't need to make that decision. I had a scrambled egg sandwich that was missing something. And what it was missing was just an egg cooked in a different way. And it was glorious. So that's what we're going to make today. An indecisive bacon, egg, and cheese. All right, first things first, we gotta start cooking that bacon. So just to make it easier to cook, I'm gonna cut these slices in half. It's easier to build a sandwich that way, and also for the size of the pan that I'm using, it just makes everything easier. Okay, we've got this pan going on medium-low heat. You hear that? Nothing, no sizzle. That's what you want. We're going to make this bacon nice and crispy by rendering the fat, which means a nice, slow cook. Got our trusty bacon weight, and we're just gonna give it the time that it needs to cook. And while it's cooking, we're gonna go prepare our eggs. This is gonna be a 3-egg sandwich. So now that we've cracked our eggs, we're just gonna whip one of them up for the scrambled egg layer, and this we'll just leave alone. We're not gonna salt them now. We're gonna wait till the cooking has started before we salt these eggs. A beautiful ciabatta from Il Forneretto, which is where ALC gets their bread. So it's summertime. This is the season. It's time to eat tomatoes. And I've got an abundance, so we're going to use some fresh tomatoes in the sandwich. We're also going to use some fresh basil. Also, before we cook the eggs, we're going to start to assemble the sandwich. Nice and thinly. And then we're also going to take our basil and chiffonade. So we're going to take the leaves, stack them up. Then we're going to roll them up like this. Some of you have practice. And then we're just going to turn them into ribbons. Flake salt. And I'm gonna sprinkle this on top. Okay, so let's melt some cheese. We got the broiler going. I've had many broiler mishaps, so I am gonna watch this like a hawk. Into the oven we go. I burnt so much bread under this broiler, I swear. This is just how I have to perch. Like I'm gonna catch a fastball or something. Got some crispy edges, nice and melty. Lots of fat is rendered. We got this nice golden brown color. All right, time to assemble. Okay, so the order of this is important to me because I like my runny yolk to run over the bacon and onto the tomatoes. So I'm gonna put the 2 eggs here and then the scrambled eggs on top. So I've got a non-stick pan here and I'm going to use some of this bacon fat. Flipping eggs stresses me out. I don't want to pop any yolks. So what I like to do instead is baste. It's like a sunny side up egg. I just do this to make sure nothing is raw. As you're basting, it's going to start to look like the whites are cooking over the yolk. That's what you want to see. You're going to want to use the thinnest spatula that you've got. Just drape that over and out. So I poured out the excess bacon fat because I'm going to cook these scrambled eggs in butter. We'll put the heat on low and start melting your butter down. But you don't have to wait until the whole pat of butter is melted before you add your eggs. For this, I like to use a silicone spatula. And here is where I'm going to add my salt. It's not pretty, but it doesn't have to be. It's going inside of a sandwich. There we go. All right, last thing, I always like to top my scrambled eggs with chives. I'm considering not doing it because I've already put basil in the sandwich, but I think I'm gonna do it anyway. Sprinkle this on top. Sometimes I would add some hot sauce to this. Now, again, this is seasonal. I wouldn't have used tomatoes in the sandwich if it weren't summertime, but it's gonna freshen it up really nicely. an indecisive bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich. Sop up some yolk. You guys, this is a great sandwich, but I totally skimped on the bacon. My bad. Something was missing, and it was not enough bacon. How dare I? Goodbye snort from my dog. So now we're gonna make a steak sandwich. If you've had a steak dinner the night before and you have some slices left over, this is a great way to use this leftover steak. Now, this sandwich is going to have a lot of very rich components, so we're going to make a quick pickled shallot to sort of cut that fat and add a little bite of acidity. You hear my snoring dog? So this is going to be a grilled pressed sandwich. So after the sandwich is assembled, we're going to put it in a cast iron pan with a weight. If you have a panini press at home, this is the time to use it. I don't have one, but this is going to get our bread nice and flat and crispy, our cheese beautifully melty. First, let's get our pickled shallots ready to go. We want these shallots to be sliced up nice and evenly, so we're gonna use a mandolin. Now, if you don't have a mandolin at home, just use whatever knife you're used to using. You're just gonna have to pay a little extra attention to trying to get your slices as even as possible. If you want to take some of the bite out of these raw shallots, you could soak them in ice water for a good 5-10 minutes. But I want to keep the bite on this because, like I said before, this is gonna be a really, really rich sandwich, and we want that tang to cut through. We're gonna take salt and sugar, about a tablespoon of each, which sounds like a lot, but we want to draw all the moisture out and create a snoring puppy and create a pickle out of these onions. So sprinkle all the salt and sugar. I'm just going to use my fingers to mix it in. I'm not like smushing the onions, but I am putting a little bit of pressure. Now, if you want this to have even more bite, you could add a splash of vinegar, but that's up to you. So with the magic of video, it's been a little over an hour. Now you can see the brightness of the color is enhanced. Got a lot of juiciness. That's all the moisture drawn out of these onions. This is going to be the perfect topping for our cheesy steak sandwich. The next thing we're gonna do is slice up and sear some portobello mushrooms. Now, as you cook your mushrooms, they're gonna shrink. It's always good to cook a little more than you think you're gonna need. And as we're doing this, I'm already getting my pan nice and hot. For portobello mushrooms especially, you wanna cook them at high heat. So let's get a little bit of oil into this pan. You definitely want something with a high smoke point. So vegetable oil, canola oil, grapeseed oil, or avocado oil, which is what I'm using. As you can see, the oil is starting to smoke a little and is swirling, so this is a perfect time to add our mushrooms. So we want to get a nice sear on our mushrooms, so it's super important to not crowd the pan. If you just have mushrooms stacked on top of each other, you're going to have lots of bald spots that don't have that nice golden brown color that you're looking for. Hit it with some kosher salt. These mushrooms have shrunk a little bit, so I'm just going to flip them now. So we've got the last batch of portobello mushrooms coming off. And we'll just reserve this until it's time to assemble our sandwich. Now, after I cooked the steak, I reserved some of the pan drippings. The pan drippings consisted of the rendered fat from the meat, also a compound butter. So it was a brown butter with garlic and thyme. So what I did was I took about 2-3 tablespoons of mayo and about 2 tablespoons of that dripping, and I turned it into a little sauce. So let's slather that sauce on our bread. The sounds of the Cafaro home. We've got very thinly sliced pieces of ribeye. We're just gonna make that the initial layer of our sandwich. I'm gonna make this piece even thinner just cause I think my daughter's singing. The thinner the slices, the easier it'll be to bite through it, which will make your sandwich eating experience more pleasant. I hate taking a bite of a sandwich and then I just pull out half of it. Half of it's hanging out of my mouth. I look like a savage and my whole sandwich is pretty much ruined. So nice thin slices. All right, so we're gonna have 2 types of cheeses in this sandwich. First is a triple cream, which is a very soft and creamy cheese. This has been in the fridge. Usually you would eat it at room temperature. You could basically just spread this cheese on a piece of bread. So this kind of cheese is going to melt, but not in the way that a stretchy cheese like provolone or mozzarella will melt. It'll melt in a buttery way and sort of ooze in between all the cracks and crevices of the steak. Next, let's layer on these portobello mushrooms. Let's take it 1 slice at a time, nice and even on the sandwich. Next is the provolone. Who doesn't want stretchy, melty cheese on a grilled sandwich? The 2 cheeses serve a different purpose, right? One of the cheeses is a little bit funky and it's going to melt into the meat like butter, whereas the provolone is going to be melty and stretchy and it's going to add a different texture to it. I also layered the provolone over the mushrooms because as it melts, it's just going to hold everything in place. Now we're going to hold off on adding our pickled shallots until after we grill that sandwich. I am going to kill you! Didn't I just give you a drink? Didn't I just give you a drink? As I was saying, we're gonna hold off on adding our pickled shallots. I want these to be cold and crisp. We're gonna press the sandwich first, get it nice and toasty, then we're gonna open it back up and add our shallots. I like my grill marks slanted because I'm fancy like that. I'm gonna lay it in and I'm just gonna smush it down. We've got this on medium heat because we don't just want to quickly toast the bread. We want the cheese to melt. We want the heat to penetrate into the contents of the sandwich as well. So I flipped it after about 4 minutes at medium heat. If you're using a panini press, you wouldn't need to do this. Oh yeah, that's the sound we want. Before we slice into this beauty, we're gonna add those pickled shallots. So there you have it, steak sandwich with 2 kinds of cheese, seared portobello mushrooms, and pickled shallots. Oh my God. That's better than I thought it was gonna be, you guys. You think it would be richer with that mayo and the cheese, but the bite of the pickled shallot just cuts right through it, leaving you with a perfectly balanced sandwich. So the Carmine Calabrese wasn't always called the Carmine Calabrese.
Right, I think Stephanie had a different name for it at the time.
When we were shopping it around, we were calling it the Hot Carmine.
Hot Carmine. But since my family was from Calabria, the peppers,
Right.
I figured the Carmine Calabrese was just, that was my contribution.
Yeah, it's a great name. I also think, I mean, I don't know if Hot Carmine might be a little risque for the food business, might evoke some thoughts that you might not want to have when you're ordering a sandwich maybe. I don't know.